So the new version of Affinity is out, and there is a lot of buzz around switching from something like Photoshop or Illustrator to Affinity. So if that sounds like you, one of the first things that you'll want to get up to speed on is what are the tools, how do you use them, which ones are similar versus new, are they good or bad? I know it's a lot of questions, so in this chunky video, we're going to cover pretty much all of them. And I'll put timestamps below as well, just in case you would ever like a quick refresher on a specific tool. So first up, we have the Vector Studio, and this is effectively the equivalent to Adobe Illustrator. So we're now in Affinity, and we're going to take a look at the tools for the Vector Studio or workspace. So just make sure that you are in Vector up here. And from the top, we have the Move tool. This is great for moving things around, rotating and resizing. I'll just give you a super quick demo. There we go, we have a rectangle and we can rotate it around. We can hold Shift to snap to 15-degree increments, and we can resize, where's the rotate? There we go, rotate. So this is probably the tool that you're going to use most of the time. And you can also deselect by just clicking anywhere or pressing Escape. Right, next up, we have the Artboard tool. And if you do hover over these, you get lots of information. Goodness me, that has quite a bit there. And usually there's a keyboard shortcut for many of the tools as well. So we can add new artboards like so, or we can just use this tool to draw our own, and then we can customize the size from the transform panel. Right, let's undo that before we make things rather messy. Right, next up, let's go and create a shape. Don't worry, we will get to more of those shapes. Lots of fun to be had there. Now this one is the Node tool. This is kind of like your direct selection tool in Illustrator equivalent. And we can use this to select individual anchor points and modify them and all that stuff. So with this first shape, this is kind of like a live shape. So we have properties that are specific to this shape type at the top. So if you want to edit all of the individual anchor points, you've got to convert this to curves. So now this is where the Node tool comes into play. We can move these around. We can convert them and then adjust them in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. So again, that's going to be very, very useful. This one, oh no, we've got another one. Yeah, Point Transform tool. This one is a little bit new to me, but I think you can sort of use it like a scale tool, but not really. So you can grab this point here and move it around. I don't know, let's go for here. There we go. Okay, that's pretty cool. So we're scaling to or from that point. So slightly different to Illustrator's scale tool, but with a bit more practice, I think I can probably get my head around that one. Right, this next one, Corner tool. So if we go and grab a rectangle, goodness me, rectangle tool's getting some love today. We've got C, that's the keyboard shortcut for this. And what we can do is select individual or multiple points and round off the corners. So let's go and grab these over here. Whoops, make sure you press C. There we go. And I've created something, not entirely sure what that is, but yeah, I've made it. Now, if we go back a few steps, the next tool, this is the Contour tool, and this is O on the keyboard. And what we can do with this is we can make a shape larger or smaller, and we can round off the corners. So effectively, this is kind of like Illustrator's path offset. Now we do have a whole bunch of options at the top here. And honestly, I need to play around with this a bit more. And then once you're happy with what you've done, you can bake the appearance, and that will kind of set the transformation. And then you can use the Node tool that we covered a moment ago to then go and adjust all the individual points in the geometry of the shape. No idea what I'm doing there. All right, Pen tool, good old Pen tool. This is P on the keyboard, as you might expect, and we can use this to do custom shapes. So we could use this to draw a line, or we could click, click, click to like do a straight line dot to dot, or we can click and drag and we could draw some lovely curves. Now, one of the differences with this and Illustrator is that we can't really see how the curve's going to look as we're creating it until we turn on this option here, Rubber Band mode. So if you're like me and you're coming from Illustrator, this is going to be really useful because then you can kind of see what the curve looks like before you commit to clicking and dragging. Right, next up we have the Pencil tool. So we can use this to draw freehand pretty much. So there we go. Fantastic. Now what you can also do is check the stabilizer, and this is going to stabilize your path. So as you can see, I'm using a mouse, and this doesn't look especially good, but then when I let go, it's going to automatically smooth it a bit more. So it makes drawing freehand with trackpads and mice a lot easier. And if we click and hold under this, we've got the Path Brush tool. So this is like drawing brushes in Illustrator, your vector brushes. Let's go and do something like this. There we go. Fantastic. Well, not really. But if we go over to Path Brushes, oh my goodness, these are so fun. Not these again. Oh goodness, I'm going to have a lot of fun with these. Oh my God. What on earth? Let's see if we can choose some other ones. Yeah, so we do. We have some like, let's just switch to acrylics. It's probably safer for now. So we can grab this and we can click and drag. And this is all vector as well. So these are vector brushes, these path brushes. And we get a real-time preview as well, which is kind of cool, actually. Let's try a different one. Actually, no, let's try something. Let's go for markers. Classic flat marker. Oh, it's just so cool. You get that real-time preview, and it's so fast and responsive as well. Oh, love it. As you can see, I'm quite the artist. But anyway, we're going to move on now. The knife tool. Right, this is cool. So slightly different to Illustrator in that if I use the pencil tool to draw a lovely squiggly line. In Illustrator, we have the knife tool for cutting shapes with a fill and the scissors tool to cut shapes that are made up of a path. Well, in Affinity, we just have one tool and it does both. So we have the knife tool here. And what we could do is we can hover over the path and you can see it actually changes to a scissors icon, which is a nice touch. And we can click there and it adds a cut, and then we can use our node tool. And we've quite literally just cut the path. We've given it a little snip and we can now separate those two parts. And if I go and let's create another rectangle, and we'll use the knife tool again, but on a solid shape, we should be able to just slice through it and separate it. Yep, very good. Now the keyboard shortcut for this is K as well. Now can we do a straight slice by holding, no, not that, maybe Shift? That makes sense. Yep, so we can do straight cuts like that, and then we can just separate all these pieces into, well, lots of separate pieces. Right, next up we have the width tool. So again, we're going to need to draw a weird and wonderful line. And the keyboard shortcut for this in Affinity is W. And we can just click on a point and we can adjust the width. Really simple. And this is a fantastic addition. Right, next up we've got the fill tool. So we're going to need another shape. Let's just make it a black rectangle for now. And we can click the fill tool and we can add a variety of different fills. So what we can do is actually go to the drop down here. As you can see, we've got solid. So we could just go and pick a different color and it's going to change it to that color. Or we've got different gradients. So we've got linear, which is effectively in a straight line, radial, which will emanate to or from the center, and then lots of other fun ones that I haven't honestly even touched yet. So cannot wait to get stuck into those. But we'll start with linear for now. And we have a lovely, responsive and fast gradient tool. Much more like Photoshop's one. Definitely not like Illustrator's one, which is outdated and clunky as heck. And we just have to select different points on the slider, pick the colors, move it around freely, and then adjust that midpoint. Honestly, it's so fast. It's an absolute joy to use that feature. Right, transparency tool. So kind of similar to this, but we can now go from one color to transparency. And this is something designers, at least me personally, I need a lot. And it's nice to have this as a separate tool. So if you want to quickly add a fade to transparency on something or over a design, like maybe a color overlay, you've now got a dedicated tool to do that. Okay, right, onto the shape tools. This is pretty insane. So you've got lots of preset shapes here. This is amazing. So a lot of these in Illustrator you'd have to create yourself, which is fine, totally doable, but here it's just much more convenient. So we're going to go and grab the cog tool. We can click and drag, and this is still a live cog shape. So I've got lots of cog specific settings up here.
so I can fine tune everything and I can make a beautiful cog. So we've got the tooth size, we've got the notch size, we've got all sorts of weird and wonderful settings. There we go. I mean, that's not really a cog anymore. I don't know what that is, but yeah, so we can adjust the number of teeth as well. I feel like I've learned the anatomy of a cog today. And that's amazing. This is a live shape, so you can update and change anything at any point. And if you do want to go and fine tune and adjust every anchor point individually, just remember that you will need to go and convert it to curves. But you will lose the ability to change everything in the options bar at the top. But sometimes that is the trade-off. Now, in addition to that, some of these shapes have different presets. And arguably, these aren't really cogs. Like, that could be a cog. That's probably not a cog. That's definitely not a cog. But they're amazing presets nonetheless. So here, for example, we've got that star spiky thing. I don't even know what that is. Here we have a sunburst. So this is lovely. And then we could go and change the color to a lovely orange. So that's not really a lovely orange, but it'll do for now. So if you need like a starburst or sunburst, whatever it's called, you might not think to use it, but it's under the cog tool and there's loads of other presets there. So I would definitely encourage you to play around with them. Right, next up we have the shape builder tool. Now to demo this, I will need a couple of volunteers. Star tool, you'll do. In fact, we'll just have a couple. And let's go and pick a different color for this one. So there we go. We're going to make them overlap with each other as well. Maybe something like this. And then we select them both and we go and choose the shape builder tool. And the keyboard shortcut for this is S. And what we can do with this is we can choose whether we want to add or subtract at the top here. And then we can click and drag to combine different shapes together. Or if we undo that, we can hold down Alt or Option and we can click and drag or just single click and it will knock out that area of a shape. So it's great for combining shapes together, especially if your design is a bit more intricate. Now underneath this, we have the Vector Flood Fill tool. And what this enables us to do is to pick a color from either up here or at the bottom of the toolbar. Let's go for green, I think. And then we can just fill that color in. Really, really simple. That's pretty much it for that one. Now we've got some text related stuff. So we have the artistic text tool. This is like your point type in Illustrator. You click, you type, and then you just resize. You can change all the font properties at the top, and it's super simple and great for titles. Now, if you do want to have area text as it's known in Illustrator, so your paragraphs of text or whatever, frame text tool is where it's at. So you can click here and then you can start typing. Let's furiously type to get to the end. There we go. And you can see it wraps the lines. And if we press escape to come out of that, we can now adjust this and you can see the lines wrap. And actually, while we're here, let's just double click, delete that. We'll go up to text, go down to insert, and we can insert some filler text. This is your placeholder text, which is fantastic. Love this. And we can adjust that. And then we can change the size as well. And you see all of these changes happen in real time. Like you get a live preview, and I absolutely love it. Now here, we have the place tool where we can place an image. Simply click this, select an image on your computer, and you can then paste it in. Down here, we have the vector crop tool. Now this is a really cool addition, and we're just going to have to pretend for a moment that I've made an amazing illustration. So bear with me, just pretend this is an incredible illustration, the best illustration you've ever seen in your life. So if we select this absolute mess, also masquerading as an illustration, we're going to group this with Command or Control G. So you can see in the layers panel, this is now all grouped together. And then with the group selected, we're going to go and grab this tool over here. And we get these control points appear. And we can now adjust this. And we can just trim off all of the excess outside of the illustration. So this is great if you're going to be creating lots of patterns You know, patterns rarely ever have a clean edge to them if they're repeated or tiled patterns anyway. And this enables you to just trim off all the excess and have clean edges. And then just press V to go back to the main move tool. And we can now move this around and just resize it freely as one object. And then if you do want to go and adjust the crop again, don't worry, all your artwork isn't lost. You've just got to go and extend it and adjust it a bit more. Now let's keep this monstrosity for a second, because we're going to go and use the measure tool. Now this one is where we can just use it to measure different points, and we get some options at the top. I don't know how you add these permanently, and I don't know if you can, because as soon as you click off, it disappears. So I guess if you need to measure things, this can be useful, but I'd love to see a way where you could just, you know, click a button and it then stamps that as a graphic. So you can annotate lots of complex diagrams with measurements. That would be cool. But for now, I think it is limited to just measuring. The area tool. This is kind of cool as well. Not really something I would use, but if you do technical drawings and diagrams, you can see the total surface area and the individual surface area of different segments. So if that's your kind of thing, that might be useful. We also have the eyedropper tool, or no, the color picker tool. Sorry, I was in Illustrator mode for a second there. And this enables us to zoom in this little circle, and we can pick a very specific color. And then that becomes our selected color. And then this one down here is similar, but slightly different, the style picker tool. So if we've created some text and we have a stroke and it has a certain thickness and a certain color, we can just copy all of the style properties from one object to another. And if you do want to access even more tools from all of the different studios, we have them here. As you can see, there are many, and you can drag these on and off your toolbar and fully customize your workspace.
Next up, let's take a look at the Pixel Studio, which is the Affinity version of Photoshop. So you can see at the top, I'm already inside the Pixel Studio, and we're going to go from the top to the bottom, starting with the Move tool. Now, we've covered this in another video, but essentially this is great for selecting, moving. We can resize, we can hold Shift to distort, and then we can rotate. All right, sorry about that. Let's put you back there. And this is one of those tools that you're going to use an awful lot. Now, we also have the perspective tool, and I haven't used this a ton, but what we can do is use this to distort a shape and adjust the perspective. And you can see it adds this as a live filter over on the right. And now we're going to add a mesh warp. Now, as we go through these different tools, you'll see that some of them will cause the layer to be rasterized. So it starts off as an image layer, but to then apply the effects from the tool, the layer has to be rasterized. And if I go ahead and grab this, I think, yeah, I can just freely warp and distort this in very weird and wonderful ways. So this does give you a little bit more control rather than just a straight perspective warp. So no idea what I've done there. Let's definitely undo that. Now, when it comes to the next one, the deform tool, I'm honestly not sure what this does, and I haven't been able to get this to work. So we're just going to skip past that one. But if anyone does know what that tool is used for and how to get it working, please do let me and everyone else know down in the comments. Right, next up, we have the crop tool. Now, if you're using artboards, this will be grayed out. And quite simply, this enables you to crop your canvas. So we can do it from one side or hold Command or Control to do it from the center. And if we hold down Shift as well, we can scale it proportionally. And we've also got a nice little drop down here, which is pretty handy. We can split it into a thirds grid like so, or we can even use the golden spiral. So if that is important to your work, you can use the golden spiral when adjusting the crop. Right, next we have the selection tools. So if we click and hold, we've got the object selection tool. And if we go through here, you can see that it selects different things, different objects, and I can click and I then get a selection. And there we go, that's not too bad. And if we go back over here, next one down, we have the selection brush tool.
So if we deselect the selection with Command or Control D, this is very similar to Photoshop's quick selection tool. We can just brush through to add to the selection, or we can hold down Alter Option, and this will remove from the selection. And then we can go and add a layer mask or whatever we like. And then lastly, we have the good old Flood Select tool, also known as the Magic Wand tool in Photoshop. And this selects based on color. So we could sample the sky or the skin tones. I honestly don't use this tool much these days. I use the other ones more, but it is there if you need it. Right, next up, we have the rectangular Marquee Tool. Now this one and the elliptical Marquee Tool are very similar. We can use this to select an area, and we can hold Shift and keep using it to add to that selection. Or we can hold down Alter Option. You can see the icon changes to a minus, and we can subtract from the selection. And if we then go and do it with the elliptical Marquee Tool, you can see we can basically introduce ellipses or circles. And then these ones down here, we have the column and the row Marquee Tool. What these do is they enable you to click and select a 1 pixel column or row. And you can move around the position, or you can actually change the width in the options bar at the top if you want to have a value greater than a single pixel. And then lastly, we have the Freehand selection tool. And with this, we can just quite literally draw a freehand selection. It kind of says what it does. And we can also hold down Command or Control, I think it is. And yep, there we go. We can actually do a click, 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 straight line, dot to dot selection. So if you want straight lines in your selection, that is the way to do it. Right, next up, we have the Fill tool. Now, I think if I click and drag on this, it's added something to the layer. I wasn't expecting that. What we can do for this one, though, is actually go and add a new fill layer. So you can find this under the pixel menu. And this is a bit different to how Photoshop works and honestly did confuse me at first. So now we have a new fill layer. What we can do is we can choose the type of solid. And then you can go and pick a color. Or what you can do is choose linear. And then you can draw a gradient. Why is it not drawing? Let's turn these off. It's probably because the color is white. So let's just click on that. And then we can open up the color picker from the bottom of the toolbar. Or if you've got this docked on the right-hand side with your panels, you can kind of go and do it there. Oh, have we found a bug? I think we found a bug. Right, I figured it out. There was a bug or something attached to that document. So when I created a new document, everything works fine now. So I just created a new document and then copy and pasted the layer from that one into this one. So how this layer traditionally works is we can just quite literally pick a solid color, or we can pick a gradient and just drag this around. And then we can go and change the color from up here. So let's go and change this to like a nice, sexy yellow. Oh, look at that. It's not even yellow, but it doesn't matter. And then we can just select the fill layer at any time. And then we can adjust the gradient or whatever fill type that we've specified here. Right, now that we've got that one done, what's next? We have the Flood Fill tool. Now this works very similar to your Paint Bucket tool in Photoshop. So if we go and add a new pixel layer, what we could do now is go and pick a color from the color picker. Let's just go for like a gray. It's a bit dull, but never mind. There we go. And we can just fill that color in. So it's super, super simple. Oh yeah, let's bring our images back. There we go. Haha. Right, next up, we have the Paintbrush tool. And this is one of my favorite tools and one that I use most often. So what we can do is select this. We've got lots of different options at the top. So you can see here we have the opacity, we have the flow, we have the hardness and many other settings. And then over here on the right-hand side, we have the brushes panel. Lots of brushes here. Many of these are defaults. As you can see, I've installed some of the brushes that I would typically use in Photoshop, and they come across just fine, which is a relief. So yeah, if you have any .abr brush files, they will work with Affinity. But let's go back to basic. Down here, we've got some defaults. We've got the hard brush. And then at the very bottom, we've got the nice soft brushes. So let's go and grab, I think maybe this one here. And if we start brushing in, yeah, it creates a new pixel layer for us, which is handy. So you will need to brush on a pixel layer. So we can't brush directly on an image layer unless we were to go and right click it and then go to rasterize. And you'll see some of the tools that we're going to use in a minute, it will automatically rasterize the image layer just to be able to use that tool. So yeah, the brush tool is great. We can pick a color and then just brush a bunch of scribbles in. There you go. Well done, Dan. You're an artist. Next one down, we have the paint mixer brush. Now, I'm no artist, but this tool is a lot of fun. And if you do understand painting and that sort of stuff, honestly, I think you're going to have a ton of fun with this. So what we can do is, can we do this on an image layer? Yes, we can, but you can see it's rasterized it. So let's undo that because that was horrific. We'll go back to brushes. And then we have acrylics, we have gouaches, inks, markers, loads of stuff. So let's pick acrylics. We'll go and choose an acrylic brush. And then we can use this to quite literally mix and blend. Now, if you're skilled, you can make this look good. Obviously, I'm ruining this image completely. Sorry, love. But yeah, you can control settings like strength and all sorts of other stuff up here. And it quite literally is mixing the area where your brush is. So it's mixing and blending those pixels with these different brush styles. So in the hands of someone who is skilled, unlike myself, this tool is going to be very useful, especially if you like to create digital artwork in something like Photoshop or Affinity. Right, let's just forget that ever happened. And we'll go back to layers. Now the next two, I never used these much in Photoshop and I'm probably not going to use them here. Color replacement tool. So I think you could pick a color and then replace it with another one. I just don't like this. It's destructively working and there's just better ways to replace color. So I'm just going to ignore that one. And this one as well. If anyone's got a better explanation for these, please do let me and everyone know. The pixel tool, we can just draw 1 pixel lines. Maybe there's a use for that, but I don't know. Not something that's really interesting to me. Right, we have the erase brush tool. Now, if we do this on an image layer, what this does is automatically make a layer mask. So I do like that. If we do this on a pixel layer, it's just going to erase the image. So this is pretty much what you'd expect. Now we've got a couple of other eraser related features here. We have the background erase brush. And Photoshop does have something similar. So we could select a background and we could remove it. I don't really like this. You can play around with the settings to get a better result. So we could try it on the sky here. But again, we're working destructively. So we're permanently erasing the background. So maybe it's good in a pinch, but not something I would ever rely on for professional work. And then the flood erase tool. So this is kind of like a paint bucket tool, but it will just remove the background in one click. Again, maybe good in a pinch, not something I'm probably going to use though. Right, next along, we have the adjustment brush tool. So what we can do with this one is we can pick our adjustment up here. As you can see, we've got lots of adjustment layers that we'll be covering in a future video. So let's go with exposure for now. And by default, you can see it's darkening this area. We get that live preview, which is lovely. And we can hold down Command or Control for an alternative functionality, which is going to lighten the area. So by default, this darkens and then this lightens. So what we could do is we could let it just darken the area, brush, 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 and then it creates an adjustment layer and we can go and refine it further. So I feel like this tool is kind of like a springboard to just pick an adjustment layer, start brushing, and then you get your adjustment layer from that. And then once we've got it, we can go and refine it. And these adjustment layers will affect everything underneath them in the layers panel as well. Right, let's go and delete that. Or what we could do is hold Command or Control and we could go and lighten an area. There we go, that looks moderately awful. So let's go and undo that. But we can do the same with the different adjustment layers as well. So HSL, which stands for Hue, Saturation, and Lightness. And if you're coming from Photoshop, this one may look familiar. So we can saturate part of an image more, basically make the colors richer. Or if we undo that and hold Command or Control, the alternative functionality is to desaturate part of an image. So that is a tool, probably not something I'm going to use personally. I'm used to using the brush tool more, and then you've got all of your adjustment layers down here anyway. Right, let's go back over here. Next, we have the burn brush tool. And I know we're giving this image a lot of attention. Don't worry, pancakes, we're coming to you. We're coming. So with the burn brush tool, this will darken an area of an image and kind of bring out the shadows more in many places. And then we have the dodge brush tool, which is kind of the opposite. This is going to brighten areas, and you can use this to boost highlights as well. Now, again, we are working destructively, which basically means what we're doing is permanently damaging or destroying the image. I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but there are better ways to dodge and burn with the flexibility to undo. So we will cover that again in another video as well. And then lastly for this section, we have the sponge brush tool. Now by default, slightly different to Photoshop. This will saturate an area of an image, and it's very subtle. So if you want to desaturate with the sponge tool, I don't know, maybe you're a frequent sponge tool user. You've got desaturate there and a few other options. So we can just brush over, but again, we're working destructively. Right, let's undo everything we've just done, because that is awful. Right, next up, we have the filter brush tool. Now, these are very exciting and function very, very similarly to the adjustment brush tool. Basically, we can pick an adjustment, lots to choose from. Let's go with glitch. And here we've got type. So we've got lots of different types, and we get this live preview as we move over. And in the top left corner, we have brush settings as well. So let's just go and brush in a glitch. There we go, fantastic. And you can see in the layers panel, we have a layer mask that gets added. And if we twizzle this down, we have our glitch effect there, and we can click into it and change it. So we can adjust the glitch strength, and we'll maybe change it to slice. There we go. Lots of different types. And I'm sure this is going to provide endless fun. So we'll be covering these filters in other videos as well. And we can delete it like so. And if you want to access more live filters without using the brush, you can find them all here. And as you can see, there are many. So yeah, have fun playing around with those. But next up, we've got the blur brush tool. Right, I think it's time we switch over to pancakes now. So let's select this image, and we can just start blurring. You can see the assistant pops up just saying, hey, you're doing something a bit naughty. So we're going to rasterize this layer. So it's now a pixel layer, and we can adjust the strength at the top. And then underneath, we have sharpen, which will sharpen the edges and bring out some of the details and provide a bit more clarity. We now have the median brush tool. Not something I use very often, but a detailed description says this will selectively reduce noise by blending pixels under the stroke. So you can sometimes use this if you're retouching skin, but again, we're working destructively and we're going to lose some of the detail, and there are better ways to do that and have a bit more flexibility. Smudge brush tool. This can be very useful and can be fantastic for drawing hair and fur. So let's crank up the strength a bit. We'll bump it up to 75. And we can then smudge our little mint leaf on top. There you go. Now that is obviously completely useless, but the smudge tool in the right situation can be very useful indeed. Rightio. Now we've got the clone stamp tool. Again, this is another really useful one. What we can do is adjust the brush size using the left and right square brackets on the keyboard. And that's the same for any of these tools that have a brush of sorts. We can hold down Alter Option and we can click to sample that area. And you can see with a crosshair, that is the sampled area. And I can now brush in. Oops, I got the wrong layer selected. Silly me. Let's select you. Alter Option and click to sample the bush. And then we need to crank up our flow. Just make sure flow and opacity is at 100% unless you want something lower. And you can see with that live preview, we can brush more bush into the sky and have another hand and a head. There we go. Now, why would you want to do this? You clearly wouldn't want to do that, but this can be very useful if you wanted to just, let's say, just extend the bush a bit, or extend something or clone something out, whatever it is. Maybe I don't like these bits here and I could just kind of clone it over. And it does get quite quick to use. And obviously I'm doing a terrible job, But yeah, the clone tool can be very useful. Right. Undo brush tool. I tried to use this earlier. I couldn't get it to work. I'll figure it out and make a video. It said you need to use history states or something. I couldn't get it working. So I'm sure someone cleverer than me will let us all know how that works. Anyway, let's move on to something far more fun. The Inpainting brush tool. Now, so far to me, this is very much like Photoshop's remove tool, which I flippin' love. So let's just say we wanted to remove her face. We can brush over that area. You can see it becomes highlighted, and now we have something. Let's just try it with the arm. Let's see how it handles that. Come on, let's throw it in at the deep end here. Arm be gone. That's not too bad. The results so far have been pretty good from my experience. Let's see what happens when we do it on the sky. Or the bush, rather. Is it going to leave us some sky? No, we get another face. Let's try it on the other image as well. And maybe we don't want this oozing, dripping caramel down here. Oh, that's a bit too much sugar for me. Let's get rid of it and see what it does. It's not too bad. Not too bad. A bit rough around here, but it's quick. I like how quick it is. So yeah, actually this bit here is rather awful, but yeah, sometimes it's good, sometimes not so much, but at least it's there as an option if you want to give it a go. Right, the healing brush tool. Now this is another one that's very similar to Photoshop. So what we can do is, similarly to the clone brush tool, we can sample an area. So we could sample some skin and we could then brush over that area. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer again. Silly me, my goodness. So we'll sample an area of skin and then we can brush this over. No, let's sample it again properly, Dan. What does it say in the description? Repair and retouch unsightly areas of an image. That's hilarious. And the clone brush tool brushes one part of an image onto another using sampling. Right, next we have the patch tool. Now this can be very useful, not something I use often. How does this one work? I think you select an area like this and then you can drag. Whoops. Oh no, we've got an eye in her cheek. Hang on, let's try again. Yeah, there we go. So we can select an area and then sample another area to go in it. So if we did want another eye, we could then click and resize it, I think. Whoa, oh, steady on, Dan. This is getting weird. And then just click again. There we go. And it kind of sets that. My goodness, what have I done to these images? I'm so sorry. There we go. Get your arm back. Get rid of that extended bush. Goodness me. So yeah, again, a really useful tool for retouching. Right, we also have a couple more. The Blemish removal tool. I'll cover this. I'm not going to really go into the red eye removal tool. It's just not something I've ever used, but I'm sure it does what it says on the tin. Blemish removal tool. Right, so let's just go and click and drag over this. Or, oh, I've got the wrong layer selected again. You flipping idiot. Right. So we can just quite literally, oh yeah, this is cool. So we can click and drag and then find an area that we like and then let go. This is really cool, actually. So if I wanted to remove this mole on her neck here, I can click and drag. And as I'm holding down, I can sort of scan different areas. So I can find an area that looks really good and blends seamlessly. And then when I let go, then it commits those changes. So we've got something on the arm here. Find a nice bit of arm to replace it. Boom, there we go. So that is really useful. I do like that one. Right, pen tool. Now we've covered this in another video, but it's basically very useful for drawing custom shapes. There we go, little work of art. Now the great thing about this is you can draw shapes and you can give them fill colors and all that good stuff. Or what you can do is click on mask, and this is going to mask the layer below. Or if we undo that, we can use this shape that we've created to make a selection. So this is how I use the pen tool predominantly in something like Photoshop. I use it more for creating masks and selections. But now in Affinity, I guess it's just all really interchangeable. You can use it for shapes, masks, selections, the lot. And we've also got the node tool down here. So if you want to edit all of your individual anchor points, we can just use the node tool to do that. Basically the equivalent of a direct selection tool. Right, we have lots of shape tools. Again, we've covered this in another video, but I'll just show you this briefly. So we could create a cog, and then we've got lots of options at the top, or we can grab the orange control points and we can adjust the different settings for our cog directly on the canvas, which is pretty cool. Oh, this is fantastic. This is so flippin' cool. And then we could adjust the number of teeth up here, make it more cogalicious. And then we've got presets for the cog down here. There we go. Let's go with the radioactive symbol and then customize it, because why the heck not? So yeah, lots of tools down there, definitely worth playing around with. Right, we've got some text tools. We've got the artistic text tool, which is pretty much click, start typing. And then we can resize this. And this is great for any title text or headlines or text that you want effects on. And we've got loads of different properties at the top. And we can click up here for the character panel. I don't know why it's down there and really, really small. Let's bring you up here. I know there's lots of options hiding in there. Found you. So there's your character options, Command or Control T to hide and show that. And then we have the paragraph panel here. Why is it hiding down there? Come on, don't be shy. Let's bring out those options. There we go. As you can see, there are flipping loads, and there is a keyboard shortcut for that probably, but I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to click the X. But yeah, that is the artistic text tool. The equivalent is basically your point type text in something like Illustrator. And then we have the frame text tool where we can drag a box, right click, insert filler text, and then we can resize this. And you can see it wraps the text onto multiple lines. And if we go up here, we can click this and we have a window specifically with settings for a text frame. Right, let's get rid of those. Oh yeah, if this blue box hangs around for you, you see the blue box on the text frame, no matter what I select or deselect, that just stays there. If that drives you insane, like it did me, what you can do is go to View, down to Show, and then turn off this option here, Text Flow, and it just gets rid of that. When you click it again, you can see it, deselect everything, and it goes away. Right, oh, we're nearly at the end. Color Picker tool. This is pretty straightforward. We can hover over an area of an image and we can see what color it is. Style Picker tool. So if you have a particular style, so colors, strokes, different properties on the selected layer, you can then click on another object to sample the same properties of the selected object. You've got the hand tool here. You can use H, but instead I prefer to use spacebar because it's just much quicker to access. And then at the very bottom, we have the zoom tool. The shortcut for that is Z or Z on the keyboard. And we can zoom in and out. And then at the very bottom, we have the color pickers. So we have the background color and we can press X to switch to the foreground color. And we can double click this and it brings up a color picker, very similar to Photoshop, with a drop down and a bunch of different sliders and things. And so yeah, those are all the tools that we can use in Affinity's new Pixel Studio.
And finally, the Layout Studio, which is the Affinity version of InDesign.
So first of all, just make sure that you've switched to the Layout Studio. And then what we're going to do is start from the top. So we have the Move tool. We've covered this in other videos, but very simply put, this enables us to resize images and we can rotate them. Where are you? There you are. Or we can hold Shift to rotate and snap to 15-degree increments and move things around. So it's a pretty essential tool, really. Now, underneath this, we have the Node tool. Now, this is great for editing individual points. So if we just jump ahead and create something really quick, don't worry, we'll come back to this beauty. We can then grab the Node tool, which is very similar to Illustrator's Direct Selection tool. And we can now adjust the different anchor points. So if you are making custom shapes and you want to adjust the different nodes, this tool is perfect for that. Right here we have the Frame Text tool. So what we can do is click that, click and drag. We can type some text or we can right click and add filler text. And if we select everything up here, you've got your panel with text frame related options. And we've also got character properties here. You can see it switches us to that tab. We've got it loaded in this studio. Or we can click this arrow here and oh, there's nothing hiding under there. But the paragraph options are here. So in this layout, it does merge your character and paragraph options into this suite of panels on the right-hand side. So very useful. And with this tool, we can adjust the text frame, and the paragraph of text will wrap onto separate lines, which is very useful. And it's kind of related, so let's just cover it now. We've got the artistic text tool. I don't know why these two are separate in this studio, but there we go. Basically with this, we can click, we can start typing, and then we can use the move tool to resize and customize the text. So there we go, we have dads, and those are your two ways for adding text in the Layout Studio. Right, what have we got here? The table tool. Right, let's click and drag and we can create a table. And there we go, Excel has invaded Affinity. So what we can do here with this is we can grab these handles here to adjust the number of rows and columns. And then I think with this tool selected, we can select one cell like so. And then we have some options up here. So we could change the cell color. Oh, there we go, red. Or we could do this for multiple cells. So let's try and select everything. And I think there's an option up here. Table format. Nope, that's not it. Let's try table. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. So then we can control the fills. We can adjust the cell height so we can make them bigger and wider. And if you did want to give them a bit more padding, you could do that here. Okay, next up, the pen tool. And we briefly looked at this earlier, and we can use this to create custom shapes. And we've covered this in another video, that if it's not up on the channel already, it will be up soon. And we can use this to make custom shapes, or we can use it to mask the image below. So we could pop our lovely inky graphic inside that shape, or we could just use it to make a selection and then Command or Control D to deselect. Right, we have these shape tools. Now we've covered these in previous videos and they're honestly fantastic. We could just click one. We can create a star. We have all these options at the top and you can adjust them here. Or if you press U to select the shape tool, you can just adjust them on canvas here. And honestly, this is just so flipping cool. Hey. And oh, look at that. There we go. Oh, look, a flower. Beautiful. Do we have any presets up here? We do. Oh, there we go. Oh, these are just great. That's a nice one. That's a nice flower. So yeah, loads of shapes to play around with there and highly encourage you to experiment. And what have we got here? The picture frame rectangle tool. Okay, so this is really good for adding placeholder content to a document. So it's not something I ever used much in InDesign, but it can be very good if you want to add space for pictures and content to go. And we've got the same here as well. Picture frame ellipse tool. So very similar, but more elliptical or circular. And these can be very useful when wireframing a layout as well. Right, we have the place tool. Simply click this and then pick an image from your computer and place it and drop it in. Super simple. I don't have anything there, so let's just take a screenshot. And there we go. Oh, this is going to get a bit trippy now. So we can single click to place it its native size, or we can click and drag and place it in like so. And what have we got here? Data merge layout tool. Okay, so it says draws a grid layout that repeats as new pages are created during data merge. Data merge, whether in Affinity or InDesign, is something that I've rarely ever used. So I'm not going to try and be clever and pretend that I know what the hell this does. So that'll probably be a separate video at some point. Right, let's go down here. Vector crop tool. So this is more for cropping images. So slightly different to the crop tool in the Pixel Studio. And if we switch back to layers, yeah, it appears to have added a mask, a clipping mask. Can we hide that? Yes, we can. Okay, so the crop tool adds a clipping mask. And if we twizzle this down, yeah, we can see that there and we could select it and let's delete it. Yeah, there we go. And we have our original image back. Right, underneath this, we have the fill tool. Now, if we just click and drag, it makes it black and white, which isn't really what we want. So let's go up to Pixel, down to New Fill Layer. And we can click and drag. This feature does seem a little bit bugged when I'm doing it above an image. So I tried this in another video and it didn't work. If you do have this problem, just create a new document. We need to add a new fill layer. There we go. Drop in a fill. And then what I would do is just copy and paste this into this document here. And then it should remember to work. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm using that wrong or if it's a bug, but that is one way that you can get a fill layer into the document. Okay, now that we've got it working, what we can do with fill layers is we can actually choose the type. So we can have solid, and we can just pick a solid color, or we could choose a linear gradient or a radial gradient, and we can go and pick the colors. And this tool is super easy to use. Love how fast and responsive it is. And there's lots of other options down here as well, like bitmap. We played around with this on stream the other day. It definitely needs a bit more time to kind of get my head around it. So we can add that screenshot. Oh, this is going to be even more trippy. And we can just use this to make patterns. And I just love how fast and responsive this is. And we can hold shift if we want to snap it. So yeah, once you've added a fill layer, it's like a very general type of layer and you can just fill it with lots of different things. And yeah, I do love that. But let's get rid of it again. Below this, we have the transparency tool. Now this is great. Can we apply this to an image? Yes, we can. This is fantastic. So this works very similarly to the gradient tool, but we're fading the image to transparency. So if you want to fade something in or out, this is a really easy way to do it. And then up here, we can choose different types as well. So radial fade, lovely. And then I think, is it this one? No, reverse. There we go. So it kind of flips it around the other way. So very similar to the gradient tool and yeah, very useful. And then down here, we've covered these already, but we'll cover them again very quickly. We have the color picker tool. We can hover over to select colors and we can see those RGB values. Click and this will become apparently the color of the image. Didn't know it did that in layout mode, but there we go. You learn something new every day. And then underneath we have the style picker tool. So if you want to copy the style from one image, you can select it. This could be colors, layer properties, stroke widths, all that stuff. And you can then sample that. And then you can apply those same style properties to another layer. We've got the hand tool, which is H, but personally I prefer to use spacebar because it's just quicker and easier. And then we've got the zoom tool, which is Z or Z on the keyboard. And we can use this to zoom in or out of different points. And then at the very bottom, we've got color pickers for our fill and our stroke color. So we could go and double click this and we get the color picker. We can pick a color and apparently in layout mode, it applies it to the selected image. Let's go and play around with this. There we go, fantastic. So if you want orange liquidy ink, that's how you do it. And yeah, there we go. Those are all of the tools in the Layout Studio in the new version of Affinity.
And if you made it this far, well, firstly, well done. I know that was a lot. So if you would like to dive into more Affinity videos, I've got my other YouTube channel linked below. But otherwise, take care and I'll see you in the next one.